Welcome to the Pit Check, your local news source for all of the best and heaviest albums released each week. And honestly, this might go down as one of the best weeks in history for metal music. Specifically, we've got some new modern classics in deathcore, metalcore, and old school hardcore. So subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and let's get right into this week's new metal albums. 2025 is the year of deathcore. Whitechapel is back with their, and I don't say this lightly, absolute masterpiece of a new album. Hymns in Dissonance is their 9th studio album, and you can argue this might be their best. The last thing you taste, the shit runs deep. After incorporating clean vocals to great effect on their last 2 albums, there was some pretty heavy speculation that we might get another song or two that showcases vocalist Phil Bozeman's pretty impressive singing chops, but nope, they went ahead and made the heaviest album they've ever released. The guitar work is phenomenal on here. The drumming is technical and precise, and Phil is showing unbelievable breath control and vocal range. This is Whitechapel at peak musicianship. It's funny, I don't think I can actually talk about this album without sounding like I'm fangirling out about this band, and this shirt doesn't help. But I am beyond impressed with the mature and elevated songwriting while revisiting and incorporating all of those brutally heavy elements and themes from throughout their entire discography, blending them all into a sound that pushes forward the future of deathcore while still showing love to its past. This is a phenomenal album, receiving extreme praise from both critics and fans. And I know I've said it in like 3 videos so far, but genuinely, we are in a new golden age of deathcore. Well-established bands like Whitechapel and Enterprise Earth and so many others are creating these amazing genre-defining and best-of-their-career releases. And then bands we haven't heard from in a long time, like the Crimson Armada or Impending Doom, are coming back from the shadows and also putting out amazing new music. I am beyond excited to see how far deathcore gets pushed in the coming years, and a release like this new Whitechapel album is exactly the type of rising tide that'll lift all deathcore boats. So if you haven't heard this album yet, or you just need an excuse to listen to it again, please check out the new Whitechapel album, Hymns in Dissonance. This album just solved the East Coast versus West Coast beef once and for all. The New York hardcore band Pain of Truth and the California hardcore band Tsunami have joined forces to create this ass beater of a new split EP, Coast to Coast. Modern hardcore and old school hardcore lovers alike are gonna have a ton of fun with this one. Coast to Coast is a 4-song split, with the first 2 songs going to Pain of Truth and the last 2 songs going to Tsunami. And it's really cool to hear their styles back to back, which are both unique but still blend together perfectly. And it's cool hearing the slight differences in the way they like to be recorded, with Pain of Truth having a punkier approach, really focusing on the drums cutting through the mix, especially that snare drum. And then Tsunami having slightly more of an all-around garage band sound, with more rough around the edges vocals. If you're into DIY hardcore and need 10 minutes to get some serious aggression out, check out the Coast to Coast EP by Tsunami and Pain of Truth. Spiritbox is back with their newest album, Tsunami C. Crazy, right? This band feels like they've been on top of the world for like a decade now, but this is only their second album. Coming off of the monster success of their debut album, Eternal Blue, the pressure was on. Are they going to try and capitalize on their more crossover radio hits? Would being too heavy alienate their new fans? Would not being heavy enough alienate their original fans? I did not envy their position. I am, however, happy to report they fucking nailed it. They still have tons of the proggy and djent and breakdowns that people initially fell in love with. And a ton of the catchy choruses and harmonies that get stuck in your head. But this album is also super fucking weird, incorporating electronic and NuMetal and experimental elements, further evolving and changing their sound instead of settling into what could end up being a cliched Spiritbox sound. I love that they refuse to let that happen.
I was surrounded by pearls that I could not eat and diamonds that I could not drink.
This is a really impressive effort to not only have all of these different sounds and make them sound cohesive, they all sound like Spiritbox. There's nothing in here that sounds forced or sounds like they're chasing any trends. This is just Spiritbox having fun and showcasing all of the different avenues that they're physically capable of walking down.
I will show you when you
If you're a fan of alternative metal, metalcore, or djent, I think you should absolutely check out this new album. Once again, that was Spiritbox with their newest album, Tsunami C. You know you love violins in your breakdowns. Imminence is out here making some of the most gorgeous metalcore ever created. If you haven't heard of these guys, Imminence blends beautiful symphonic strings, breakdowns, prog and djent elements, even minor deathcore elements, all to create some of the most unique heavy music on the scene. This is one of the few symphonic metalcore bands that actually plays the strings. I love how creative these guys are, even using a violin bow on a guitar just to make this like Hans Zimmer Inception boom breakdown. The Return of the Black is the newest album from Imminence, and it serves as sort of a deluxe edition to their 2024 album, The Black. But this isn't just some thrown together half-assed deluxe edition. This album not only has 6 brand new songs and remixes, but it also has 2025 versions of their big hits like Heaven Shall Burn, Death by a Thousand Cuts, and some of the others that have special guest features. This is an 18-song album, clocking in at a whopping 1 hour and 24 minutes. And again, those features I was just talking about. We've got Tim Charles of Ne Obliviscaris, Lucas Woodland of Holding Absence, Scott Kennedy of Bleed From Within, and so many more. So if you want some masterfully written symphonic metal / metalcore, you have to check out The Return of the Black by Imminence. This is the heaviest band from Boise, Idaho. Ingrown is a vicious hardcore band that blends a bunch of death metal and thrash and even power violence into their hardcore. After gaining a ton of momentum in the hardcore scene from their debut album Gun, Ingrown is back again with a somehow heavier sophomore album, IDAHO. If you were a fan of their previous release, this is everything you could want and more. The heaviness and brutality, but most importantly songwriting, have all been stepped up for this album. Notably, this album was produced with Andy Nelson, who famously produced Jesus Piece, Inclination, Pain of Truth, Weekend Nachos, and more. And the band loved working with him, saying, "Andy understands our band and our sound better than we do sometimes. He has an amazing way of capturing our performance in the most precise way possible without losing any rawness or power." And you can definitely feel that on this album. Thematically, this album is all about the state of Idaho, the living conditions, the guns and violence, the broken institutions, the wastelands left due to corporate greed, resulting in this feeling that the only person you can trust is yourself. And I love the focus put on the balance between self-reliance and helplessness. If no one cares, you can do anything, right? This is a brutal hardcore album that somehow gets heavier and heavier with each passing track. I highly recommend this album to any fan of hardcore, brutal death metal, or even slam. Again, this was the newest album, IDAHO by Ingrown. Gorepig is real, guys. I'm super serial. With a name like this, you'd expect a Cattle Decap style band, but actually it's a really silly and fun blend of deathcore and 2000s NuMetal. Gorepig actually has some amazing riffs and breakdowns and a ton of vocal range, bouncy and rap-inspired hooks, and even some awesome guitar solos, giving them a fresh sound but also a goofy, nostalgic, self-aware sound. I love how not seriously this band takes itself. This is a new 6-track EP titled Harvest that runs about 17 minutes long, and even though this band has been blowing up lately, we still don't have a debut album from these guys. So if you love nu metal and rap elements in your deathcore, you've gotta check out this new EP, The Harvest, by Gorepig. I told you, 2025 is the craziest year for deathcore. Crown Magnetar are back with this relentlessly heavy new EP titled Punishment. Punishment is right. These guys are absurdly heavy deathcore. This EP legitimately feels like it's trying to fight me. If you need 12 minutes to destroy whatever room you're standing in, put on this EP. Also, can we please just talk about how good their drummer is? This is just unfair. And I will say, it's not just disgusting breakdown after disgusting breakdown. Well, it also brings back a lot of those amazing technical death metal riffs and guitar showmanship that was really prevalent on their debut album, The Codex of Flesh. But yes, it is also wall-to-wall breakdowns. If you love the heaviest possible deathcore with some incredible tech death elements, please pick up this new EP by Crown Magnetar titled Punishment. New York hardcore is stronger than ever. Combust is hands down one of the most interesting hardcore bands on the scene, with this classic, raw and stripped down 80s to 90s New York hardcore vibe. Only the strong survive. This is a wildly underappreciated band, given that they have been releasing amazing music since 2017, and they have just released their sophomore album, Belly of the Beast. This album is 12 songs at 30 minutes. 30 minutes? That can't be right. Hardcore albums are supposed to be 15 minutes or less. This insane album is also filled with some amazing features like Mind Force and Terror and Danny Diablo and so many more legendary New York hardcore acts that are giving them the cosign. If you love New York hardcore, 80s and 90s metallic hardcore, or even just classic hardcore punk, I think this album is going to be right up your alley. Definitely check out Belly of the Beast by Combust. Real quick, before we get to this week's up-and-comers, I just wanted to say thanks again for watching this video or liking or giving a comment or sharing it or whatever it is that you do. I really appreciate it. This channel doesn't get that many views, but a lot of the comments and everything that I get are so nice and really make me want to keep going. So just thank you to you guys, and subscribe if you're not already. And now time for everyone's favorite segment. These are this week's underrated metal bands with new albums out. These are all bands with 15K or less Spotify monthly listeners, but should still absolutely be on your radar. First up, we have Cryptosis. This is some solid modern black metal with a little bit of death metal elements here and there. They have a new album out titled Celestial Death. This one has a really good balance of old school and modern black metal and has really exceptional recording quality. Next up, we have Dawn of Ouroboros. This is also a really solid up-and-coming black metal band, but this one more heavily and equally blends those death metal elements and even some atmospheric elements. They also have some amazing clean and harsh vocals from their incredibly talented vocalist, Chelsea Murphy. Dawn of Ouroboros has a new album out titled Bioluminescence. Next up, we have Planetary Ghost. This is a fantastic fusion of tech death and deathcore. They have a new EP out titled Arbiter's Grounds. There's even some awesome features from Entheos and Volvidinia. I just wish this EP was longer than 4 songs, but still, this is a really solid EP. Next up, we have Severed Tongues. This is a great new progressive melodic metalcore band. With a huge sound despite only having 3 members. I also really like how powerful their vocalist's voice is, and he doesn't force himself to sing in a higher register. These guys have a new EP out titled Fragments, and I'm excited to hear what comes next from them. And finally, we have Fomented. This is a DIY project from the UK that is a pretty 50-50 split of hardcore and death metal. This is their debut EP, Bitter and Miserable Beings. This is a new project from Kieran Scott of Death Collector, and it's got a really great mix of sometimes being beefy hardcore, death metal, southern metal, and sometimes 90s goth. And I really like that they don't take themselves too seriously. They're clearly having a ton of fun on this EP. It's now NuMetal time to die. I really dug this one. So again, excited to see what these guys do next. And that's it for this week's newest and best metal albums. If you have any to recommend that we didn't talk about today, or if there's any albums that I love that you hated, or vice versa, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. So that's it, and I'll catch you next week for another Pit Check.